Up the Yangtze is my first feature-length documentary. Previous to this, I've made a couple of short films, fiction and documentary. But I came upon the idea when my parents invited me to go on a cruise ship on the Yangtze River. Now, the Yangtze River is the third longest river in the world. And it's very historical, it's very mythical. For many Chinese, it's like a pilgrimage to go to the river and see the Three Gorges, which is what it's all about. And recently, though, since 1992, they've begun building this hydroelectric dam project, the largest in the world. Everything is the largest, the biggest. And so I went out of curiosity in 2002, the first time, to the Yangtze River, with the idea that it could be interesting, that there's something surreal maybe about going on a cruise ship on a river that's going to disappear because it's going to be flooded and there's going to be 2 million people relocated. It was very, sort of epic landscape for me in my mind. So I went to China and I brought my camera. I brought a little camera like this camera, and I started filming a little bit, just my own experience, just my own camera work, just filming a little bit about what I was seeing. And it was, for me, a very surreal experience. It lived up to what I expected it to be like, which is sort of like the Love Boat meeting Apocalypse Now, you know. It's a very surreal landscape, there's a lot of contrast, and I thought that it could be a wonderful story. And I think initially I began thinking about the themes, and I thought a lot about the metaphors of this river, the river of life. And you're on this river of life and you're arriving at this Three Gorges Dam project, which is sort of like a monument for progress. And along the way you're traveling and seeing the disappearing landscape, and you see this sort of transition happening on the river. So I decided to focus the story on the lives of some of these people who are from along the river and who work on this luxury cruise ship. Now, the cruise ship itself was a metaphor for me because it was like this little mini world, you know, like a microcosm for the world. And on this boat, below decks, you have the Chinese who are working, trying to climb up the ladder. And above decks, you have the people who are successful, the rich Westerners who are there to sort of experience or in search of something authentic about their knowledge of China. So, given all of that, those are the inspirations, the sort of the themes and the metaphors. But I think when it comes down to making the film, you have to throw all of that away. You spend a lot of time, and I spent 5 years developing and researching the movie and getting the money to make the movie. It takes a long time, and it takes a lot of perseverance, and it takes a lot of faith. And you can't give up. You can't give up in a project, especially a documentary, when it's difficult to get support to make a documentary. So the process was let me just explain the process a little bit. It began with research trips. So the first trip was the one by invitation with my parents to shoot this little impressionistic research footage. And with that, I cut a demo. And with that demo, I brought it to my producers, who, in fact, is my former professor. And so I highly recommend to the students to make sure you get to know your professors very well. You never know when you might need their help down the road. So my professor ended up being my producer for my film. And he has a company, a production company in Montreal, Canada. And they came on board to help me find the money for this movie. And it doesn't happen easily. It took a long time. And it takes what's called pitching a film. So the best way to pitch a film is to go to a festival. And often there's these festivals like Hot Docs in Toronto, or in Sao Paulo it's the It's All True festival. That's all true. Yeah, my film played there as well. And these festivals have these markets where you can talk and pitch your film to people, like commissioning editors is what you call them. And they're broadcasters like Arte and Global here and CBC in Canada, whatever it is, National Geographic. And you pitch your film to them, and if they like it, they give you money. But it took 5 years to get the money to make the movie, because every time someone was interested, they said, okay, here, take some development money. We'll give you $20,000, $10,000. Go to China and show me something. So I had to go back maybe 3 times, 5 times to China to film the story, to try to convince the people that I had a story to tell.
要真的是不放用火枪了，把个大货都拆就，把炸断掉。
The film is not about the Three Gorges Dam. I think my film is really about modernization and the question of progress. Because I think everywhere all over the world we're confronted with this idea of success and what is the definition of success, and sometimes that definition is the sacrifice of having to make money and to kind of follow a capitalist sort of agenda. And for me, it was very upsetting to see a country that I learned about through my grandparents and my parents, that was, to them back in the day, was sort of a nostalgic memory of what their experience was like. And then to have gone back to this Yangtze River, to know that it's going to be flooded. And that's the sort of film I wanted to make by extension, through telling it through the eyes and experience of people. So it's a human story, and through that human story we can learn, I think, about environmental issues, social, political. I think that's what a documentary is. I think a documentary is not it's not journalism, it's not reportage. I think a documentary is about telling a point of view, telling a story, and offering something emotional. I have 3 words of advice, I think. One of them is to not just watch films, but to read literature, to diversify yourself. I think for a young filmmaker, for me, when I entered film school, I was 18 years old and had really nothing to say. And I think it's important to try to sort of be a sponge and learn as much as possible about everything. The second advice I have is, I think the best thing is to not give up and to have perseverance, and when you have an idea and you're inspired with an idea, to continue with that idea, even though, for example, for me, in Up The Yangtze, it was 5 years of making this movie, and it was, sometimes you want to quit, and you just don't want to pursue the idea anymore. It becomes tired, it becomes old, but I think you have to find ways to convince yourself that you're doing the right thing. And I think given that, if you have that passion, then you'll make the film. And who knows, maybe it's not a good film, but at least you'll have the satisfaction of knowing that you finished it. Third message I have is an advice that my mentor gave me, and he was the professor, the head of the department that I studied cinema in Montreal. Old Polish guy, Andrei Erman was his name. And he told me, one day he told me, he said, I have advice for you. The best advice I can give to a director. And he came and he told me to come here. And then he whispered to me, he said, never wear tight pants when you're directing. And I think that's good advice.